What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Trauma Doula. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you that watches my videos. It means so much to me. And also, give me a little like so that the YouTube algorithm can tell whether it's something that should be shared and things like that. Anyway, let's get right into it. Today, we are talking about the inner child. What is the inner child? You know, we start to hear these words and phrases and concepts when we are getting into our spiritual journey. And oftentimes people don't really say what they mean when they're saying those words. So I can say, yeah, let's work on inner child healing, man. And if I don't tell you what an inner child is, then how are you going to heal it, right? So let's start there. Our inner child, really simply put, is the connection to our heart, the connection to our heart spaces, the place where we feel the most enlivened and the most joy in our world is from our heart space, through our inner child. So you could think of the inner child as a guide, right? The inner child is a guidepost for, in a way, living your best life, you know? But oftentimes, our inner child, because of things that happen in childhood, things that happen throughout our lives, our inner child is kind of covered up, and we've shut it down a little bit, or a lot, depending on who you are. So I'm going to look down because I need to read my notes. Anyway, so number one, the inner child is the real you. It is the you before anyone told you you needed to be something or someone different, right? So when we are kids, oftentimes people will tell us that we need to be different than we are, right? You're too loud, use your inside voice. You're too messy, stop playing in the mud. Don't crawl on your hands and knees, you're a girl. You're going to have banged up knees. You know, all these little things that people are telling us to really assimilate us into the culture that we live in begin to shut down this inner child, okay? And this inner child, again, is that connection to your heart space. And when we have shut down the connection to our heart space, we can't lead and live fulfilling lives. Our lives become an image of what they could be, if that, because we are living from a space of, can I get the approval of everyone around me, right? As children, we needed the approval of people around us so they'd take care of us, so they would keep feeding us, so we would still have a place to live. And while maybe it didn't come out like that, maybe your parents never were going to disown you if you crawled around on your hands and knees. It's not something that is logical. You know, the heart is not the logic of the mind. The inner child does not have the logic of the mind. As we get older, we start to logic some of the shutdowns of our inner child away. Like, oh, I can make logical sense of this now. But your heart hasn't been able to heal from some of those things. So that's where we get some of that conflict going on in our lives, right? So the inner child is the person, the heart space, the energy that you are before anyone told you who you should or should not be. I'm going to say that one more time. The inner child is who you are before anyone told you who you should be. Right? There's all these shoulds. And we start to hear the shoulds in our mind, which I'll get to in another video, but just describing what the inner child is. So if you know anything about the chakras, right? The inner child is the guide and wise the wise representation of the heart. And our heart space and leading our lives from that space is the strongest way for you to truly find fulfillment in your life. And this is something that generally can't be described. What a lot of people say when they start to tap into their heart space is that it hurts or it's heavy, right? And that's all the shutdowns that have happened throughout our lives. So healing the inner child is really a process of coming back into what it means to be you before anyone told you who you should be, right? Nextly, so as adults, we begin to listen to the voices of the people around us when we were kids. And those voices become our own voice. They become the thoughts in our head, and they sound like us, but really they're the shoulds. I should eat my broccoli. I should like broccoli, or I shouldn't like broccoli. And it comes out in our culture quite a bit, right? It's like, if you are a white person or a non-person of color, it comes out in the racism that's been present in our culture since day one, of like, you shouldn't be friends with people who don't look like you, or you should, there's lots of shoulds. And while I won't go into that, and there are plenty of people who do white awakening, and I'd suggest you look into that if you are someone who's wanting to deprogram your mind from the matrix of separation that we live in currently. Then I would look into white awakening. There are classes and courses and things like that. That is not the trauma doula. That's not what we do here. We do inner child healing. So want to separate that out a little bit. But so those voices start to become our own voices, and we start to listen to them. We start to believe that it's us. And really, it's just what other people told us. It's what other people told us was possible for ourselves. It's what other people told you was possible for you. So if someone said, it's not possible for you to go to college because I don't have the money, and how would you pay that back? You're not going to make that much. And, they fed this to you, then you may not do that. Or the other situation that's happening to a lot of us is you need to go to college. If you don't go to college, you're going to be broke. And there's all these people in our generation that have gone to college. They've done the thing, and they're broke. I don't think having $120,000 of debt and making $60K a year is living at large. You're paying that back. That's what you're doing, right? So beginning to realize that some of these voices that we are acting on and we are following and living our lives by are actually the voices of other people from childhood. And so once you start to connect with that inner child playfulness, that joy, it's like a true connection to who you were before you were told who you should be. It's that true connection to your deep, intimate self. And once you start to connect with that, you will begin to unfold in ways that you could not have imagined. You can't make it up, right? Because you're following that inner playfulness, that inner wisdom that knows how to get what it wants, and it's not always the most direct way. You can begin to live in a way that is meaningful and fulfilling to you when you open up to your inner child. And so I'm inviting you all over to Instagram, and I'll link my Instagram account below. It is the_trauma_doula over on Instagram. We are doing a 30-day Connect with Your Inner Child challenge. And I would be so excited if you came along for the journey and really begin to see how your inner child has been calling out to you this whole time. So until next time, please like, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.